Welcome to this part of the series exploring Portworx PX Motion in the new 2.0 release. In this demo, we'll be walking through blue-green deployments across different versions of Kubernetes. So this isn't different versions of application, it's Kubernetes itself. All right, let's get started. So here we're taking a look at two terminals, a destination cluster and a source cluster. Our source cluster is going to be running one version of Kubernetes. The destination cluster is going to be running another version of Kubernetes. What we can see here first is we have a LAMP stack deployed to the LAMP namespace, and that's MySQL, PHP, and we can see the pods running there for the web front end and the database MySQL. We can also take a look at the different persistent volume claims backed by Portworx. So there's one here for the database, 2 GB using the Portworx storage class. And we can also use the PixieCuddle Portworx CLI to list the volumes, and we can also see the same PVC as expected to in the Portworx cluster itself, that it's up and attached to the node used by the pod. Now, we can get the service for this LAMP stack, which runs a web front end, so we can hit the endpoint and actually see what's going on to make sure it's up, make sure the application is running as expected. So let's go over here to the load balancer port. And here we can see the PHP front end, and we can go to mysql-connect.php to make sure it can connect to that MySQL database, and it says outcome true. So we know this is working as expected, right? So now we have a destination cluster, and in this destination cluster, there is no namespace named LAMP. There's no application running. Just to show you, we can do a get pods on the LAMP namespace, and there's no resources found. This just shows you that the destination cluster isn't already running the same application and the same data and things like that. Now, if we go back to the source cluster, we can show you what version, right? We're running an EKS cluster, which uses Kubernetes 1.10.3, and our destination cluster is running version, I believe it's 1.12.0, yep. And that's all built from source. It's also running in AWS, just in a different VPC. Now we can get the cluster pair because we want to have these two clusters connected so we can migrate the LAMP stack to the 1.12 cluster. We can see that the storage status and the schedule status is ready for our migration. So the next thing we need to do is actually create the migration, and we can watch the destination cluster, either PVCs or pods. We'll use PVCs here to show you that as the migration takes on and goes forward, that the PVC will show up as the migration moves the volumes, etc. So now from the source cluster, we're going to kick off a migration. First, let's use that context with kubectl. We'll use storkctl, which is our stork command line, and create migration. We give it a name. We reference the cluster pair that we just showed you and the namespace we want. So this is the LAMP namespace, which contains the application we want. So now if we watch that migration, we should see the volumes are first, and it's starting in progress. And after that will be applications and then a final bit. So now volumes are still in progress. Now with applications, and it says final. So then we see the PVC pop up in the destination cluster. And our resources such as pods and replica sets and those things, our Kubernetes resources are done. So stage final, status successful is what you want to see. And our PVC is bound on the destination cluster. So now if we use the kubectl context for the destination cluster, we can get the pods from the LAMP namespace as we showed before, and we see all the pods. We can see that it's running 1.12. Now we want to see if our application is actually running correctly, right? So that's the whole point. We deploy to a new version of Kubernetes. We expect it to work as we want it to, and if it is, all is well, great. If it wasn't, we could use these clusters to debug, like what's the difference between Kubernetes 1.12 and 1.10, and why didn't my application work, etc. We can connect to MySQL as we did before. We can see outcome is true here, and that is using Portworx PX Motion for blue-green deployments between Kubernetes cluster versions. So this is between an EKS cluster and a cluster built from source. Hopefully that's been useful, and come back for more. Thanks.